how to use your property to build the rest of your portfolio. Enter remortgaging. What is remortgaging? Well, first of all, if you don't own a property, you can't remortgage. Remortgaging or refinancing is when you get to the end of a fixed period, typically on a mortgage, you get a new mortgage on the property to release equity. Let me give you an example. Let's say you buy a property at 100,000 and you usually get on a buy-to-let 75% loan to value. So 75% is going to be debt from a bank, a lender, 25% is going to be for you. If you're talking about a property you own, you might put in 10% of it and you live in, and the bank put in 90%. Now, let's say over 10 years, that £100,000 property is now worth £200,000. Well, you can then get a new mortgage on there at the same loan to value. So again, if it's a buy-to-let, you'll get 75%, so 150 grand. Or if it's your residential, you get 90%, which is 180 grand. So let's stick with boring vanilla buy-to-lets here, because this channel is mainly about property investing. However, if you're an outside viewer, just looking at your own personal, just apply 90% instead of that. So if that £200,000 property now gets a new mortgage on it of 150,000, what happens first is it pays off the old mortgage. Remember, we bought it at 100 with 75 grand debt on, so 75,000 pays that mortgage off. And then the remainder of the 150 minus the 75, which happens to be 75, goes straight into your bank account, tax free. There are many reasons why people remortgage. One of them is to get on a lower rate interest. So interest rates go up and down, often in line or opposite inflation. So when inflation's high, interest rates are high to slow down the growth. And when inflation's really low, so growth is really low, they'll reduce interest rates to pick the growth back up. And sometimes just refinancing onto a fixed mortgage ends up bringing that monthly payment down. And the reason for that is at the end of a fixed period, it goes on to a variable rate. And a variable rate, or sometimes a tracker rate, ends up going up with the Bank of England interest rate. And so less predictable. And I'll give you a great example with my personal house, which I didn't refinance in time, which is bloody stupid considering I'm in a property business, but I like to be open, was on something like 3.6% and is now 9.25%. What the fuck? My mortgage has gone up dramatically. So I need to refinance onto a new fixed term mortgage, which will be about 4%. Another reason is consolidating debts. The great thing about mortgages is the debt is so cheap in comparison to anything else. It's pretty much the cheapest debt that you can get. And so many people, I'm not saying this if you're the average individual, by the way, maybe you're not looking to invest, but if you are an investor, why the fuck would you pay off your mortgage? It is the worst financial advice I can imagine. And I'm not qualified, by the way, to give financial advice, so please don't take this. But if I had access to the cheapest money you could possibly get in the world, why would I want to pay that back when I can borrow at 4% and then use the money to invest and make 15% a year safely in a buy-to-let investment? Doesn't make any sense at all. But people do like to use it to consolidate that. So they'll remove the money and say they've got some credit cards that might be costing them 15, 20%, 29%, or some crazy loans out there. You can use cheap debt to pay off old debt. And of course, my favorite is to reinvest. So I use all of my remortgages to pull out money and go again. I never, ever, ever, and I would never recommend pulling out debt to then just spend it on a liability. What I do is I refinance my portfolio, end up going there. So say you've got a £10 million portfolio. Let's say it goes up 7% in the next 12 months, which, by the way, the average in the UK is 7.9%. So let's say 5% to keep it simple. That means the value of my portfolio has gone up 500,000 in a calendar year. So in 5 years, with compounding, it will end up being about 3 million. Well, if I refinance that, I can get access to 75% of that 3 million, or 2.25 million. I think 2.25 million is a lot of bread and butter to then invest. In fact, a 2.25 million can help me buy another £8 million portfolio after fees, which will then also go up 400,000. You get my point. Can anyone do this? Well, yes, with the right knowledge, with the right experts, with the right power team, you absolutely need to take advantage of this, in my personal opinion. But timing is absolutely essential. You need to be able to analyze the market correctly, because you need to buy property at the right price. Many people in property say you make money when you buy, not when you sell. So you need to buy the right property, and it's not about getting it cheap, by the way. It's about getting a high value property in a high value area when the market is right. And by the way, if you already know you want to invest in property, maybe you're about to remortgage, maybe you've got the money there, put APG in the comments right now. You can have a free one-to-one consultation with my team where we can help build your property portfolio in 2024, and we take care of absolutely everything from sourcing to refinancing for life. So put APG in the comments. We'd love to help you out. So what do you need to consider when remortgaging? Well, first of all, the timing of it. You don't wait until the end like I did on my residential property. Hands up, I know that's pretty stupid, right? So really you want to be doing it and thinking about conversations about 6 months before, so you've not rushed into it, you've got time to find lenders, etc., to secure that new finance. And you want to get a great mortgage broker for that. Do not go to the local bank down the road. You will not get the best rates. You certainly won't get the best service. Use a qualified mortgage broker specialist. Another tip is make sure you know what you're doing with the money, because that's going to dictate the lender. So as I said, I will never refinance to fund a liability. I just won't. I will use it to invest in something else. And it's really important because most lenders are absolutely fine with that. However, there are some lenders that genuinely have a problem with you refinancing and then using the money to reinvest. I think that's a bit stupid because it's your money, not theirs. All right. But some lenders do dictate what they want, and you need to go within their rules. So make sure your broker is aware of what you intend to do with it. A couple of common questions that I get is, number one, can you refinance again and again and again and again? And the answer is yes. Now, one thing you need to be worried about or careful with is early redemption charges. So ERCs. Early redemption charges are when you refinance before you're really meant to. So when you usually get a mortgage in the first place, most people will get a fixed rate mortgage, and the most common are 2 years and 5 years. And one of the things they do is they price in the fact that you could not be a customer at the end of that fixed period. So you will find that 2-year fixed rates are often more expensive than 5-year fixed rates, and that's because the early redemption charge will only be in that first 2 years. 2 years is not a long time to have a customer when you're lending out a very low amount of money for a low amount of time, for a bank that is. 5 years is a lot more comfortable with them. So just be wary of that you really want to wait enough time. Now, for me, it's going to be dependent on the fees, how the admin involved, and a few other things. So nowadays, I'm fixing at 5 years. I think the rates are fine for what I need. A lot of people are like, oh my God, it's so expensive. No, it's not. You're just used to paying 0.fuck-all interest rate, all right? So actually, 5% is very reasonable. You can make deals work at that, depending on what part of England you're investing in, of course. And that's good for me. And I don't want the admin of doing it. Also, I like to leave the market enough time to actually go up, because whilst properties do double typically every 10 years, that's not every year. So some of my properties in 2022 going into 2023, I bought them and then it dipped in price. And that's fine. It doesn't matter. I'm not selling it suddenly. However, already it's about 10% above what I bought it for. And it will continue to go up through time due to supply and demand economics. So I can't give financial advice around whether you should do 2 or 5 or whatever. It's down to you. But I like making sure there's enough time to make sure the property has appreciated. Now, the reality is people worry about what if you get to the end of it and it's gone down. Well, bear in mind a mortgage term usually is 20 to 30 years. It's just the fixed part of it that is for a shorter amount of time. There has never been a 10-year period ever where property prices have gone down. And again, I always say this, the past doesn't guarantee the future, but 1,000 years of evidence is pretty bloody good. As I said, guys, if you've got the money there or you're going through a remortgage or a refinance and you want us to help you act actively build your portfolio so you can sit back, relax, we take care of everything, then comment APG in the comments now. We'll book in a one-to-one session. Just make sure the service is right and go from there. If you're new to the channel, make sure to hit the subscribe and the notification bell. Tap the like button if you did get value, and I'll see you in the next video.